Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we have an amazing English story that will help you improve your listening, learn new words, and practice English. So grab your headphones, relax, and let's dive in. There's a silence that lives inside old stone, a silence that remembers. If you listen closely, beneath the noise of tourists, beneath the echoes of footsteps, you can still feel it breathing. Rome, the heart of an empire that once believed it would never die, and at its center, a place built not for peace but for spectacle, the Colosseum. Thousands of years ago, when its walls were new, the air here trembled with sound. Crowds roared like the sea, trumpets sang, and somewhere deep inside, behind the gates of iron, someone waited, a man whose name history forgot because the Colosseum didn't care for names. He wasn't a hero. Not a noble, not a warrior of fame, just another body chosen to bleed for the empire's joy. They said the Colosseum was entertainment, but to those who stood inside, it was something else. It was judgment. It was destiny. It was the thin line between life and death, drawn by the hand of a stranger with a thumb. When the gates opened, he stepped out into the light. The sun hit his face, bright, cruel, almost divine. The sand beneath his feet was warm, sticky with what yesterday had left behind. He could hear the crowd chanting, not his name, not anyone's name, just noise. And for a brief moment, he wasn't afraid. He felt calm. Because when everything is about to end, fear no longer matters. He looked around and saw the walls, tall, endless, perfect in their symmetry. He wondered how many people had died here before him. How many last breaths were swallowed by this same dust, and somehow that thought didn't break him. It made him feel part of something eternal. Across the arena, the gates opened again. Another man walked out, armored, taller, stronger. The crowd grew louder. There was no hatred between them, no personal war, just two men caught in the machinery of spectacle, facing each other because the world demanded a show. The fight began. Not fast, not heroic, but slow, cautious, heavy. Steel met steel, the sound echoing against stone like thunder in a storm. Sweat mixed with blood, and the air grew thick. People cheered, blind to what they watched, because to them it wasn't death, it was theater. And yet in the center of that chaos, something strange happened. The man, the one history forgot, began to smile. It wasn't madness, it was clarity. In that moment, he realized he had already won, not by killing, but by understanding. That the empire could take his life, but not his meaning. That fear was a chain only if he chose to wear it. That every man, even on his knees, could still be free inside. He fought until he couldn't lift his weapon. When he fell, the world around him blurred into light and noise. He saw the emperor raise his hand, the famous gesture, the one that could decide everything. But he wasn't watching anymore. His eyes were on the sky, vast and bright above the Colosseum's open roof. He thought of home, of fields, of a woman's voice he once loved. And then the silence came again. The crowd roared, and Rome continued as if nothing had happened. That's how history remembers him. It doesn't, but the Colosseum does. The stones still whisper his story, not through words, but through the feeling that lingers when you stand inside, that quiet awareness of something sacred and cruel at once. Centuries passed, the empire fell, the cheers faded. The arena became ruins, filled with dust and tourists and the ghosts of what once was. But some nights, when the wind moves through the arches just right, you can still hear it, a faint echo, not of violence but of defiance. Because the Colosseum wasn't just a monument to power, it was a mirror, a reflection of humanity, our hunger for control, our fascination with destruction, our strange need to watch others fall just to feel alive. And maybe that's why it still stands, not as a triumph, but as a reminder that the line between civilization and chaos has always been thin, that progress doesn't erase the past, it only buries it under marble and pride. The man who died there, whoever he was, lives in all of us. Every time we choose pride over empathy, spectacle over truth, comfort over courage. Every time we silence our conscience because the crowd is louder. But also every time we resist. Every time we choose compassion or courage or dignity, even when no one is watching, we reclaim a piece of that forgotten man's soul. That's the paradox of the Colosseum. It was built to celebrate power, but it ended up preserving something far more fragile, the quiet strength of those who stood alone against it. And when you walk through its arches today, surrounded by cameras and laughter, you might think it's just another ruin. But stop for a moment. Listen. You might hear the sand shifting. You might feel that same uneasy calm, the kind that comes before everything changes, because the story that happened in the Colosseum isn't just ancient history. It's a reflection of now, of the way we still build arenas, not of stone, but of screens and opinions, and throw people into them. And maybe the real lesson buried in that dust is this, that the crowd will always demand blood. But you don't have to give it, that even in the center of the arena, under the gaze of thousands, there is still room for grace, for silence, for choice. The Colosseum still stands, broken, scarred, and beautiful. Not because it was perfect, but because it survived what it was made for. And so can you, because life in its own way is an arena too. You fight, you fall, you rise, you lose, you learn. And maybe one day, when your own silence comes, you'll leave behind something more lasting than victory. You'll leave behind meaning.